Hello and welcome back to the MongoDB Twitch stream. I am Nick Raboy, and I'm with my co-host and colleague Karen. And I always butcher your last name, so I don't know if I'll attempt it.
No,
But
try it. Try it.
Uolame.
It's okay.
I messed it up, right?
No, but I'll explain it. It's you or me, but it's fine.
All right.
It's good.
We're here to talk to you about GraphQL today. So this is going to be another fun subject on GraphQL. We're going to have some fun with it. But before we get into the core content of this stream, I want to go over some logistical stuff. So we are live. Engage with us. Ask us questions. Get involved. We want this to be a fun experience. If there are any kind of audio issues or video issues, I'm trying to monitor them to the best I can. But if I miss something, let us know. If there's some kind of lag, maybe you can't hear us. Maybe the font is too small. Just go ahead and bring it up. We'll correct it as soon as possible. Is there any kind of plugs you want to give, Karen, before we start?
No, wait, let me think. So we're definitely broadcasting because I think I'm trying to watch it and I'm still on control. Okay.
We're absolutely broadcasting.
Plugs I will give. I'm like super excited about this stream because next week I have off. So I'm going to be giddy during today's stream. That's the only plug I have. Like my vacation is the plug I have. So
all good. So Karen, you want to talk about what we're going to be doing?
Yeah. So actually you asked me about my name, so I'll go ahead and explain to you my name. So my name is Uolame. It's Huaulme with an accent on it. Usually I don't care about the accent, but I happen to be in France right now. I happen to be in Marseille, France. And here, if you don't have the accent, you don't say the name right. My Twitter name is You Old Maid. And I have that Twitter name to help people like Nick so they know how to say my last name. And my first name is Karen, which was not really a problem until recently. So you can call me You Old Maid and I would not hurt my feelings. I might actually prefer it to Karen. And then Nick has a funny Twitter name too that I never thought was funny until somebody pointed out it was like NRA boy. And I could just imagine all the tweets he gets as NRA boy.
We have some unfortunate names as of right now.
So so the talk that we're doing today is so Nick actually wrote, we're going to talk about our GraphQL, how we're enable a GraphQL API on top of your data inside of MongoDB. And I wrote up an application and we're going to do I'm going to show you how to expose your data. I'm going to show you how to extend the data so you can sort of create relationships to the classes. And I'm going to show you custom resolvers. And then I built up an application with some sample data that you already have on Atlas. If you guys are using MongoDB Atlas, so you can recreate it yourself. So the reason I am doing this stream is because like more than a month ago, so there's this guy, Brian Leonard. I met him years ago when I started because he's really smart and he's really nice. And I was doing some stuff with our serverless platform and I asked him some questions and then he like knew all the answers. He's really nice. And so every time I see him, and then he told me something and then I said it on some Slack channel and everybody thought I was a genius. Do we all know, do you have a guy like Brian in your life, Nick? I highly recommend people like Brian in your life because you say what they say and then people think you're smart. And I never give credit for it ever, but we should all have a Brian Leonard in our life. And
well, you in my life, you're schooling me all day long on Atlas search. I think you're a genius.
And it's funny because I do the same. Like I write, if I'm hitting a bug, I will decide how much time I spend on that bug by gauging how much time I think Nick would spend on that bug. And if it's not a lot of time, I just won't even work on it and I'll just ask you later. But Brian, so he did this thing and then I see him at some sales conference and I say, we should do a workshop on that. And he goes, oh, I already have a workshop on that. And he shared it with me and it was super complete and super fun. And so then I took it and took credit for it again. And so then we go to MongoDB Live this year and I said, you want to do something else? And so he goes, well, I did this other workshop. He did all the work again. And I said, well, let's do that. So I wrote the abstract and I'm like, I'm definitely going to help you on this, Brian. And then I got really busy and I couldn't even help him, and he still kept my name on it. So a month ago or 2 months ago, he gives me this blog so we could publish it on Custom Resolvers, and he was really excited about Custom Resolvers. And here I am thinking he's never going to talk to me again, and he's like, could you help me publish this blog on the Dev Hub? Nick has lots of content on Dev Hub, so Nick is going to help me help Brian publish this blog on the Dev Hub. But we had to change some things in it. We had to change some of the data, whatever. And then as I'm working through his blog, it's fun. I see why he says it's so fun. And so then I wanted to do the Twitch stream this week on that. And I invited him to do it with us because it's his content and he can't because he's with his daughter. So this is Brian and his daughter. I think he's taking his daughter to college or something like that. So he can't be here, but I just don't want to be a jerk and take credit for it again. So that's my Be Like Brian call out.
I'm the fill-in, right?
I hope this can carry me until the next time I take credit for other things he does and says. But in this application, so he actually wrote the, like custom resolvers and how to get it, how to create the data, and then I kind of wrote an application around it. And so today, based on Brian, as Brian's brainchild, I'm going to talk about why GraphQL is awesome. We're going to create a schema for it securely. I'm going to show you how to do that. We do that with our Realm interface. How to query that schema and test that schema. And then we're going to start, so that's something basic you could kind of do. And then you can start, really extending it. You can start connecting points in your one Atlas collection with other points in other collections. And then you can actually use data out that doesn't even belong to MongoDB, and you can sort of add that to your schema by hitting third-party APIs. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that today. And again, I'm going to show you the app. So hopefully we will do the, I will publish Brian's blog like next week or in 2 weeks, and then I can actually put a link to this app in it so you guys can start using this as the application. It's very simple. And in true Be Like Brian fashion, I actually got the inspiration for the front end of the application from the blog that Nick did in January. So I haven't written my own line of code, but anyway, so
it's all right. I got that code from somewhere else too, so it's a lot of copy paste.
I bet you got it from Brian Leonard.
Maybe.
So I just want to say before we start that GraphQL is not a graph database, and the only reason I'm making a big deal out of it is probably obvious to you, but it wasn't obvious to me. And if somebody just started off that way, it would have saved me a lot of time. So GraphQL is not a graph database. It's a completely different thing. And I think, Nick, in your blog, you said it really, really well. I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it. So before we talk about GraphQL, why it's amazing, let's talk about REST. So if you're writing a web application or any type of application, you're probably using APIs. So I'm going to go through an example that most of our people watching are familiar with. It's with Twitch. So just before I came to MongoDB, I used to work for Twitch. And working for Twitch, I had to help. It was my first time working with these APIs in deep fashion. And I actually thought it was pretty fun. So they had these different endpoints, and you could have an endpoint to see who's playing a certain game. You could have an endpoint to see who's streaming that game. And then you could hit another endpoint after that to see all the different people who are following that streamer. And then you could take that endpoint and see what streams that they had before. And so we did all these things, and there are all these different endpoints, and it was really intricate web, and you could do some really amazing things, but it just required a lot of knowledge. And so the other thing that was interesting was at Twitch, when we're working with things, we would give, whenever we updated this, the number one problem that I think our team had was anytime we updated the API, we would give like a year notice, and we would send emails, and we send phone calls, messages, and all this other stuff saying, we're going to update the API. And so please, be careful, modify your app, whatever. And it doesn't matter how many times you do that. A year later, when we finally update the API, everybody's application breaks, and then they had to tell you about it and whatever. So that was always a problem. And the other interesting thing is if you hit some of these endpoints to get users or whatever, we try and make it simple. So if you hit all these different endpoints, that's a lot of back and forth to the server. But we try and make it so you don't have to do so much back and forth in the server. So we have a well-meaning idea of we're going to give you a big payload. Like if you hit a user's endpoint, we're going to give you everything you might want to know about NRA boy, Nick Boy.
There's not a whole lot, so it'll be a very small payload.
We'll give you his image, we'll give you his this, and we'll give you the people he follows, and we'll give you the people who follow him. And, so we give you this super bloated thing, and you might just want his name and his image or something, or maybe you want his email. I'm not sure if his email would be in the payload, but the whole point is you would get all sorts of different things in that. So that's my Twitch experience with APIs. That's my first work experience with APIs. So as you can imagine, the problem with pulling all that stuff in is you overfetch and you get too much data and it's loading up your users' systems. Lots of problems with versions and versioning. The applications have to know lots of different endpoints that are always evolving. And like I said, when something breaks, it can break a lot of things. So since I'm in France and I've been eating out a lot because I'm on the road, I'll just give you this example. Because everywhere in France, Nick was yelling at me because I sent him a photo the other day. And he's like, everybody's too close together. Yes, people are close together. And the tables are tiny and the restaurants are tiny, but the views are amazing, so nobody really complains. But let's imagine you walk up to one of these tiny, tiny tables in France. You know, the kind, it's not even a table. It has like the slats across it, so anything just kind of falls through. You get this beautiful flower arrangement because you're in Provence. And you ask for an apple. Like I asked for an apple for breakfast. So like we don't do an apple, we do a fruit bowl. And so they bring you this. They bring you there. And I'm like, okay, well, I just kind of wanted an apple. And then you say, well, can I have a croissant? And they will give me a croissant. They'll give me a panier. They'll give me something of pastries and bread and all this other stuff. So now I got all this stuff because they're trying to look generous. And then I ask for tea. And you know how they don't just, can I have a cup of green tea? They don't just bring you the green tea. They bring you, here's our selection of teas. My table is really crowded at this point. And really, I wanted something really, like, I'm not going to eat all this. So the problem is now I've got this thing and now I'm uncomfortable with it. And I'm going to be bloated afterwards. Like my tummy's going to hurt. And on top of that, I just, it's now, if I don't eat it all, it goes to waste. This is actually a terrible example because I will probably eat all of this.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Europe has like the best breakfasts I've ever had.
But here's the thing that's interesting. So this is I'm just hitting a basic endpoint example where I get all this data. So I'm hitting the Twitch streams and the user or whatever to get all these different things, right? But what if I want a glass of champagne with my breakfast? So what if I want a glass of, if I discreetly order a glass of champagne? So I'm in this hotel cafe and they say, well, we can't really give you that. You have to go to the bar. And the bar is in the hotel, but I have to get up and go to the bar. And now I got to pay for it differently or whatever. So this is my idea of a relationship. Now, since it's in the same hotel, I should be able to just kind of link those menus together so I can make my breakfast order and get the champagne. I don't have to get it and I don't have to pay for it separately. Like it's not a separate endpoint. It's not a separate scheme. It's all in there because I've related them, my bar and my cafe. And the other thing is, well, actually that would probably be like if I don't want the flowers. So that would be, we're using the champagne for the relationships. So I have a collection. I'm going to link it to another collection for relationship. And then we're going to do custom resolvers. And I think custom resolvers are interesting because let's say I don't want this big old flower thing. Let's say I want to order flowers. So that's not even something the hotel sells. Like, so I can hit an endpoint somewhere else and just get something simple. So I go from my overwhelming but well-meaning breakfast to just the breakfast of champions.
So let me ask you something then. Do you think this is how something like Uber Eats and Grubhub would work? Because they don't actually sell anything. They probably connect with restaurant APIs, right?
Yeah, I do, but I don't know. I mean, I guess they'd have to know the restaurant APIs. That would mean that they would have to have all that restaurant data. Well, I don't know. So the restaurant APIs, they manage their own APIs. So Uber can get that data, populate it, and then they can link their own collections. But I imagine they're hitting the restaurant API a lot to sort of get, in case they change the data right away.
Yeah.
But that'll be our next app. That'll be our,
or maybe not even, maybe the restaurants is a bad example. I think there's a Google Shopping app that I use sometimes on my tablet that kind of aggregates different products from different stores all in one place. You think that's more similar?
Yeah, I won't actually know until I program it. But I'm thinking, in a way, it's kind of like those travel apps that hit all those, like,
oh yeah, true.
traveling. So I have to hit all those different airplane APIs and hotel APIs to see what the deal is, who's having sales, things like that. So I keep, and the only reason I talk about food is because Adrienne Tacky is a friend of mine, and every talk she gives, she does a food analogy. So this one's for Adrienne. So I've got you called out. I've got Brian, Leonard, I've got Adrienne. I haven't had a unique thought in forever. So we have our data. We have our original collection. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to have our original collection. I'm going to enrich it with data from another collection through a relationship. And then I'm going to hit an external third-party API to get like the flowers, but the possible flowers on the table. That's what I'm going to do to help me. So with GraphQL, I can get just the breakfast I want, nothing more, nothing less, one round trip to the server. And you, as a MongoDB developer, you can help them by giving them access to all these things by defining your schema. Cool. Ready, Nick?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the data. So if you're in Atlas, and I'll show you this in a second, the idea of the application is we have it's in the sample analytics database inside of our Atlas sample data. We have a customers collection. So this customer, we have 500 different customers, I think. And inside those customer collections, birthday, email address, they have accounts. And these accounts have numbers. And so for these account numbers, we have a different collection. So each one of these customers have accounts in the accounts collection. So this accounts number will be the same as your account from your account array will be the same as your account ID inside of the accounts collection. And then also inside of the accounts collection, you'll see they have different products. So each account has lots of different products. And so you can see all the products that one customer has from all their different accounts. So let's say if each one of these accounts has like 3 or 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if they each have 6, then I can do one API call and I can get all, if there's 4 products in it, I can get all 24 products listed in the same API call.
So that account ID is kind of like a primary foreign key relationship if we were talking from a relational database standpoint, right?
Yes. Yes. Nick, I don't know how, it's so easy. I just talk to you and everything. You say things better than I do.
No, take that back.
No. So, all right. So let's see if we get started. I've been messing around with this all week. So let's see. Oh yeah. So here's the data sample analytics. Here's our customer collection. 500.
Can I have you zoom in just a bit?
Oh my gosh.
I know I'm gonna be the stickler.
This is why we're not friends.
One more time.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
High maintenance.
Looks great.
So,
yep.
Customers, accounts, and there's another collection called transactions that we could use if we wanted to use, but I'm just going to use this. And by the way, before I should probably just get started because it's more fun, but before I forget, you don't have to link to another collection inside the same database. Although this is kind of an obvious case, it could be any data on your Atlas cluster you could link to. So it could be a different database, different collection, and different database if you wanted to.
So let me pick your brain on this, and I actually don't know the answer. So this is a serious question. If we're working with 2 different databases, how does the rules work? So because you have in Atlas, you have your database rules for read and writes.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have to share the same user when you do something like this, or is there a step elsewhere?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't hit that. I haven't hit that in testing, probably because I'm the same user and I have access to all these things. But I actually, when I was working on the Brian Leonard original blog, I used the use case to get movies. So I had our sample Netflix movies database, and there's a location in it. So I would find countries inside. So you could put it. So the goal was you could put in the name of a movie, and it would return the movie and all the information about the movie. And I would link the location, like it would have a countries array, and I would link that countries array to a field inside the Airbnb data. This is kind of a contrived example, but it was an interesting fun. So I could put in like Enter the Dragon, and I could find different places. So my goal was like, if the fight scene from if I'm a big Bruce Lee fan and the fight scene from Enter the Dragon, and I want to go pay homage to that, I'll see where it is, and I'll go to my sample Airbnb, and it'll give me listings of hotels and places I can stay near the Colosseum in Rome. It's not a practical example, but I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was a kind of fun kooky little exercise and stuff to do. So
it's all right. Half the stuff I do aren't realistic.
Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
So, but I did make all my data read only.
Sure.
Oh, but that probably brings up a good point, because lots of people ask me about rules. So we'll talk about rules in a second. Where am I? Okay, here's how we are. Here's the data. So here we are in Atlas. The first thing I'm going to do is I want to expose my, where was I? I was on the sample analytics database, and I want to create a schemas on both customers and accounts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this Realm tab here. I already have a Realm tab open, so I'll just go there. Start a new Realm app. So this app is different than your app. And I don't like to say app because it makes it sound like it's really, really big.
Can I have you zoom in a bit? Different tab has different zoom levels. There you go.
I'm going to call it banking dogs, like barking dogs, and you'll know why by the time this is over. So we're going to create our Realm application. Now, the first thing we do in the Realm application, and I always do this first because I always forget. And then when I test, I'm like, what the heck? So the first thing we do is that Realm lets you, so Realm application is not like a regular application in that it's a kind of an application that help you. Your regular application can talk to your Atlas or MongoDB or whatever database without Realm at all. But the Realm application is really kind of a nifty, very easy way that we manage to do all the sort of icky things that you might have to do, the sort of the back-end infrastructure that touches onto your data. Like this is something that you can do to manage user authentication and create database triggers and do third-party services off your data. So this is kind of the Realm is a whole different talk. But inside the Realm application, the first thing I do for this particular example is I'm going to allow for, we have different types of authentication providers. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on.
Did you just enable anonymous?
I just enabled anonymous.
You want to give a quick background on what that one is?
No, you give the good background on what it is.
All right. This is my interpretation of it. Karen can add hers if I mess up on this, but anonymous authentication does not require a username and password, but it creates a unique session ID for the particular user, which we can then assign to documents that would affect our possibly read and write rules. Whereas email and password, OAuth, all of these other options, they do require more strict username and password authentication. How's that?
You say things so much better. I don't even know why I'm doing the talk. Like next time you do the talk, and I actually wouldn't be very helpful if I had to run the OBS stream. But anyway,
you'll just give me a hard time the whole time, right?
I'll throw fruit at you. But
tell me my fonts are too big.
Your font's too big. It's burning my eyes. Email, password, Facebook, Google, you could authenticate with all those things, which makes it very, very easy. But the other thing is, if you don't want to authenticate with those or an API key, we also have custom authentication. So you can basically bring your own authentication to your Realm application. So that's really kind of useful and powerful. And the other thing is that once you allow your users to authenticate, so let's say I let Nick authenticate with his name NRA boy and his password, whatever, I can hit custom user data. This again is another talk, but I'll just finish it. I can enable customer user data. So inside your application, you can, have access to Nick's name and Nick's email, and you can write that, have a very custom experience for him inside of that, because we let you create these variables to get that custom user data. Okay, so I enabled that. Done. What else do I have to do? And then let's go to our rules. I'm going to add a collection, and let's go to I keep forgetting what it's called, sample analytics. So we'll go to accounts first. So customers have accounts. I'm going to go to no templates, but we have all these nifty templates. Like you could have everybody read it. You could have, like, if your data is like reviews on Amazon, for instance, you could have it that you could read everybody's reviews, but you can only write your own. So you can set up these nifty little rules to help people make sure the right people access the right information according to the roles that they're in. So I'm going to just make it read for everyone. Save. Schema. And I'm going to generate a schema. Nick, do you want to define schema? You want to have a go at this one?
Yeah, sure. So even though that we're working with flexible BSON documents in MongoDB, GraphQL still needs something a little more rigid to work off of. So by adding a schema in Realm, we're basically telling our queries and our mutations what the potential fields are in MongoDB, and this helps us so that way it can automatically generate our queries and mutations that are allowed. And by hitting that generate schema button, it analyzed X number of documents within that collection. I think it defaults to 1,000. And it picked out what each particular field was in those documents and the type, and it made a schema for us. But if we wanted to create something on our own, we could always manually define that schema in the same format, but however we want.
Yeah, so it analyzed all the data we have, and it says, okay, you have an account ID field, and that's of int. And this way, the schema gives you an idea, and your users an idea, and the documentation idea of the data that they have to work with and the choices they have, so that their applications can make these calls and write things knowing that they're getting an array of strings for something, for instance, in this case. So I can automatically generate the schema, and this does not affect any other application use cases, any other applications use cases of your data. You still maintain, you can still have polymorphic data, you can still do whatever it is you want, and your other applications use it fine. This just happens to be something you use here. So I generated the schema, it looks pretty good, it was easy enough, and I'm gonna validate it. It took a sample, and it said, validating just checks to make sure there's nothing.
I think it's also worth noting that even though we're adding a schema here in Realm, it doesn't mean that we're applying a schema on our documents in Atlas. So it's still flexible. We can still do pretty much almost whatever we want. It's just two separate parts of the MongoDB cloud platform.
Yes. So after I validate it, I have nothing has failed. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to review and deploy. When you do these things, we don't just deploy it willy-nilly. You got to verify it, make sure it's what you want to do.
You can set it. You can set it to do it automatically if you want. If you're living on the edge.
That would be. You could drive without a seatbelt too.
Or go to crowded restaurants, right?
Right, you come to France and sit in crowded restaurants with no table space and no. So let's do the same thing for our customers collection. I guess I deserve that.
I'm going to give you a hard time about that probably forever.
So we'll do customers. I want to do this save.
They're gonna see those pictures and they're not going to allow you back in the States.
But you know something, that they test this all the time. Like they test us. When I got to the airport in Paris, they tested us after I got my luggage. So okay, so I'm generating the schema here. I'm making me lose my place. So let's generate the schema on customers.
I didn't get that.
Sorry. Well, you're gonna get it. So this looks like, the customer's data, and then let's validate it. I'm gonna have a problem here, I think. Okay, so nothing has failed, so let's save it. Oh gosh, I had no idea that was going to happen. What am I going to do? So the problem with this is if I go back to the schema, I have a field. Let me see if I can show this field inside of my customers thing. That is the tier and details thing that can open up quite a bit. And some of these things, they have all sorts of different shapes, and it just makes it. That's the field that I have a problem with. So I don't want to do that. Let me move this configuration. So this is where I'm going to put in a custom configuration, which is basically, I'm just going to cut and paste it because I just took that one field out, but let's see, schema, right accounts, I'm on the right place, customers. And so this is also really helpful if you have fields inside your data that you don't want to expose. Just take them out. Oops.
This is true.
So this looks right. If you have fields that fail validation, for instance, and one of our other things, we had a field that kept kind of failing for whatever because it's just the way we designed the data on that particular thing, and I didn't want to change the data. I just take it out of the field. I don't need, I don't need people to see every field. So in this one, we're going to return, I still have information about the accounts and the address and the birthday and stuff. So I'm going to expose all that. Let's validate this. Hopefully this should be fine.
Just wanted to remind everyone that we're live, so please join in on the chat. It's actually quite popping right now. So that's always fun.
And then let's save. So now rule contains invalid configuration. Let's see. Oh, it's this. I always do something funny. So let me save now. Actually, that should be fine. Let me validate it just in case.
I don't think the validation button was there the last time I tried. It's been a while since I've done GraphQL stuff, but I don't remember that button. It must be new. Or relatively new.
So did I save everything? I guess I saved everything. Okay. So now now we have users who could log into our application. Now I have rules so that we can sort of manage the data. So I have rules on. Now, what I want to do is I don't have an application yet. I just want to see what it looks like for people who might be calling my GraphQL application. So I'm going to go to the GraphQL tab, and then here we have GraphiQL. So this is interesting. All I did was click a couple buttons under a couple of applications. You can see here, GraphiQL will let you build out your query calls and your mutations and all the other things. But I'm going to take out the comments are super helpful. I'm going to take them out because it crowds me.
Yeah.
Crowds me very much. But this is an idea of a query that you can make. So remember, we created the schema for our account collection. These are some of the fields. This is an example that we give you. So if I do that, you can see this is an account ID. This is a sample document that you'd get if you made this query called to GraphQL. But the best thing is if I were to go to here, I can see I can have an account, which will bring me one account, or I could do accounts. If I do accounts, it'll probably bring me a whole bunch of ones. Or I could do customer query. So we have this nifty documentation. Move that over. So we have this nifty documentation that'll show you, even if you wanted to query things, it'll give you these fields where you could query things on. And so I always think about documentation as like whenever I bake brownies, or I should say my daughter bakes brownies. I don't really bake the brownies, but I figure when they're good, when you have good documentation, it's like well baked, it's like delicious, it's amazing. But if the documentation's bad, I'm still going to eat it. Like, you can't really go bad. But we actually have really well-baked brownie documentation. This is actually really cool documentation. And it evolves. If I add more fields, take out fields, this will show up right away in the documentation. So this gives you an idea of, so in customer, for instance, these are the fields that I have in customer. So if I wanted to change the data to, say, customer, and I wanted to do, is this my customer? No. Oh, I didn't. Customer, and then I want name. If I want name, email, I think is a field. Address. And accounts. Yeah. And so there you go. I hear all that guy's accounts. Who I don't know who it was. Forgot. Elizabeth Ray's accounts and her address, and I get all this information if I hit that database. So And if I wanted to, I can also find somebody specific. So I'll query. And again, the documentation will show you how to query, but I happen to know this. So there is a person in our database called Jennifer Lawrence. And that looks pretty good. So let's see if I get Jennifer Lawrence back. Yep, I got Jennifer Lawrence back here. So I can see it's Jennifer Lawrence. So let's use this inside of our application. So here I have this HTML. It's linked up to this JavaScript file. And I just copy that, what I had. I'm going to put it in here. Kind of messes this up, but tab. And then I'm going to put in I'm going to put in, I'm not going to call for Jennifer Lawrence. I'm going to change this to be, put in a template string here. I have a field.
I think you got too many brackets in there.
Thank you, Eagle-eyed Nick. So I have a field. That gives me this name. So I'm going to use customer there. So let's see what happens. This is where I cry. I have been dreading this moment all day. So let's see if I do. Elizabeth.
I want to ask you something about your code too. When you go back in there, something scared me in there.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, it's scaring me now because let's see what happened.
Crack open that inspector. Can you zoom in on your inspector too, so that way we can have the audience maybe try to help find the flaws as well.
Cut promise. I don't know what spread is, but let's have a look. Do you want to look at the code? What was concerning you?
What is going on?
I know what.
Oh, go ahead.
So I have this Realm application and I have the front end application, but I never actually put in my GraphQL API in it. This is my old GraphQL API and my old. So sorry, if this is it, then I'll be happy with it. So right. I did all this stuff in Realm. Here's the thing, and this is actually kind of cool because there's only 2 points. Here's my GraphQL endpoint. The things I did with customers, the thing I did with accounts, the things that I can change all these different queries, and I only have that one endpoint. So let's go back here, and then I need to put it. This is banking dogs S, and then if I go back, this is my AppID that you'll get here. It's probably that.
It already added it in your URL.
Yes, it added in the URL, but remember when we set up that authentication,
oh, got it.
We have to link our client to it as well.
Sure. Good catch.
Well, I don't know. Let's see if it's a good catch. So I think that looks right. Let's have a gander. I'm going to clear this because it's crowded.
Yeah.
You would not believe how messy I am in my life. Not length of undefined.
What's on line 74?
I don't know. It's probably when I start talking to an array. Oh yeah, this I don't want. Okay, that's fine. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again one more time. Oh wait. Jennifer Lawrence. Oh, length of. Oh, you know.
Got a lot of array stuff happening probably.
Oh, I was supposed to erase all this. So count, yes, because I have, this is after I use my collection. So is this the end of my, okay, so it's up to here.
I have to ask, what the heck is going on line 51 there?
You have to ask.
That looks traumatizing.
I can't, I didn't want to break the elements apart. I can't believe you're calling me out on this. I thought we were friends.
I don't even think that's accurate. I think you need semicolons in there.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm doing something right now. Oh, it worked. Oh, it kind of worked. Anyway, so as you see in the console here, we have our data, data, customer. So I console logged response, and it's giving me data, customer, and then I can see all of Jennifer Lawrence's accounts, and I can see her address or her email, and then I probably have something kind of silly done. And let me just go back to there. Oh yeah, this was not supposed to be here. So if I take this out, save it, go back. I want to try it one more time. So that's Jennifer Lawrence. Let's go back to refresh this. Let's do Elizabeth. Yeah, and there you have it. So I have Elizabeth Ray, I have my account ID, all this stuff. And the nifty thing is I set up rules, I set up authentication, I set up security, I set up the schema, all this stuff in GraphQL through my Realm application here. And now I have all this documentation that I didn't have to do anything for. But the cool thing is that, I mean, there are lots of cool things about it, but to get it to work in my app, I have to just reference that Realm app, and then I have to use that one, URL, hit that one URL to do.
We have in the chat, Tom Wright's code says life of a developer, why is it not working? And then also life of a developer, why is it working?
I heard that somebody told me once, I think this was somebody's tweet, but he says debugging is sort of like being a detective in a murder mystery where you find out that you're actually the murderer yourself. So I don't know how I feel about that, but that actually is like, yeah, I guess it's my fault that I did this, but yeah. So let's see. So I now have that working. So now I have it using just that basic schema called on the customers thing. And I could do the same for accounts. But here's the thing that I really want to show you. So now I have, let me go back here. So remember, I have information about Elizabeth Ray and I have our account IDs, but that's not telling me if she has savings accounts or brokerage accounts or anything like that. I want to hit that other collection and get even deeper information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a relationship inside of GraphQL. So if I go here, I'm going to go back to my rules. I think it's in rules. I mean, no, maybe it was in Schema. GraphQL. No, it was in rules. I thought. Let's go customers. And then, so I'm in customers and I want a relationship into the accounts. So I'm going to go relationships. I'm going to add a relationship. And so all this, it's so you can create your configuration if you want to write all that code, or you can just say, I want the accounts field in customers to be, it lets you pick a database to be inside the accounts collection related to, I think it was account ID. And so here's giving you that foreign key restraint, and it says is list means is it an array? So one of them's an array, so it says it's true. If it's a one-to-one thing, then it says false. So I added that relationship. Let's save it. Review and deploy.
So that review and deploy has gotten me like a million times on spending countless hours trying to figure out why my code doesn't work because I forgot to click that button.
So I spent, because I only get a program on the weekend. So when we have these problems, we can't like bug each other because it's the weekend and that would be rude. But one day I'm on, and Drew DePalma, who's our like principal product manager for the product, he is on Slack every weekend, and he was like, there's a big red banner at the top that says deploy. I'm like, I'm hitting this endpoint and it's not returning anything. So yeah, and then I've spent so much time working on things on the weekend, and I don't ask questions on Monday, so I've burned many a weekend. And the answer is always easy. It's always something really simple. So anyway, so now we got this relationship true. Let's go back to GraphQL, and let's see if like I said, the documentation sort of changed really quickly. So if I do, so if I do customer, see, I'm gonna do, what do I do? Name, You know, I should just cut and paste this part, but I'm committed at this point.
Do it. Go for it.
This is the closest I'm going to do to live coding. And then if I do accounts, so you see I have this error because now accounts is linked to my account ID on the other side. So if we look again, if I got query, and so my accounts is actually looking for and so now inside of here, I have to say what I want from those accounts because there are sub-documents there. So I'm going to say I want the account ID. And there's autocomplete, by the way, which is nice in products. And now let's see what happens. Yeah. And so here you go. Now I have my user information about Elizabeth Ray again, her accounts, and it feeds everybody out. And again, I could put filter here, just like any other query language. I could say, give me the data for Nick or Boy or something like that, and it'll update that. So let's take this and put this back inside the application. So when we finally publish that blog, I'm going to give you the code for this, and there's going to be a big block. So you could just cut and paste this into that into your JavaScript file, and so you can see how it returns on there. So let's do this. I hate that. I don't know what happens. That doesn't look awful. And then I want to do
So I don't know.
this is
I don't know if GraphQL does something special or not, but there's actually a way to pass in variables into your GraphQL query. I don't know if it does any kind of sanitizing of your data when you do that. I mean, for this example, just passing it in directly into line 33 like you're doing works. But I don't know if there's an actual correct way to do it, because if you go back to your graphical interface, but go ahead and go back. You see the query variables down below?
Yes.
Click it. So you can actually add variables there and use them, and you do the same thing inside of your JavaScript code. But I just don't know if anything special happens when you do that, or what. That's just wanted to throw it out there that it does exist.
There are so many cool parts of this that so there's like fragments and there's aliases, and you can change the names of fields, and you could do like, it's just, once you get started, it's just going to consume your life. And now I feel like I need to rewrite every application I ever wrote to simplify all the endpoints or something like that, because it's just cool. So let me go back, because now I have to figure out, so now I have to change this code, because now I have, instead of accounts, I have, and this was what was the field again? Was it account _ ID?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And then this is where I can undo this. This is where I can undo this. That looks okay. As always, something I'm missing here. I don't know what it is, but we'll give this a go. Oh, that's not what I want. Okay, so back to my banking dogs application. I want a different person. I'm tired of Elizabeth and Jennifer. Who else do I have? Who else is on deck? Let's do Gary Nichols.
Never heard of any of these people. Are these real people, or did you make them up?
No, it's in our sample database.
All right.
Maybe somebody made him up. Let's do Gary Nichols. Oh my God! I've never. I'm sorry. I should act like I can do this on my own without. It never works on the first try. I'm having a moment. Sorry. Nick, you're going to have to talk for a second.
What do you want me to talk about? I'm at a loss of words here.
Okay. So it worked. I didn't have to other than the I forgot what it was, but usually I forgot that something's an array, or I have whatever, I have the wrong call, or I messed up some column. But anyway, it works the first time. So this is the thing. I have my in my food example, I have my cafe menu, and I've just linked it to my bar menu. Now, this is where it gets really fun. So this is all data that I already have. Like, this is all data in my mode. But what if I want to get data that exists somewhere else? So that's where you get custom resolvers, because it can combine all sorts of data from all sorts of places, JSON files, whatever, third-party APIs, and combine everything underneath the same schema. So, for example, let's go create a custom resolver. Well, actually, before you create a custom resolver, this is where you could do. So resolvers are when I give you a field, if I say it's a name, a resolver is the thing that tells me what the name is. So a custom resolver, if I give it a name, and if I give it a name dog, then I could do all sorts of crazy logic, and have that resolve to whatever dog is going to return in the payload. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function here, and I'm going to call it. I forgot what I called it. Get dog and joke, and I'm going to save it. And I would try to tell you what I'm. Try and write it from the top, but I mess it up every time. So I don't live program. I just live copy paste.
I'll ask you questions then for this custom resolver. So I'm familiar with resolvers in JavaScript and Go, but I've never actually done them with Realm before. Are we using the exact, is this an actual Realm function, or is this some kind of special resolver that we're creating in Realm?
This is a Realm function. So right now I have not used it as a resolver at all. This is exactly how you'd create a Realm function.
Sure.
It uses the same JavaScript that you have in there. You could use it with anything. And I'm not familiar with the Go resolvers, but yeah, this is just any type of thing. So you could have it, but for what I wanted to do is I wanted to, return this object. So this is the part of the payload that is going to return to me. So let me show you real quick what it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a joke.
Also, one more thing. Can you zoom in a bit? I don't know what happened. You reset it or something. There you go. That's probably too big, but it'll work.
Oh my God.
Keep it at 125.
Oh my God.
You tired of me yet?
How long is this stream? Okay, so I actually found, so we used a different API, and it was it returned some colorful jokes, and we were kind of uncomfortable with it. So I thought, I have this banking application. I didn't want to be controversial, so I thought I'd do this joke API, and if you hit this API, it returns just a random joke about computers, because there's nothing controversial in computer programming. So every time you get it like this one, I bet you want me to zoom in on it. We should forget.
Good. You're learning.
I'm anticipating your needs.
There you go.
We should forget about small efficiencies. Say 97% of the time, premature optimization is the root of all evil. I've only heard this part. This is all I get out of that whole thing. But the nice thing is now I know the author of the quote because I've heard it many times. So that's something I do in this. I get that. So from it, I got the quote and the author. And then this one returns just a dog image. So I think I didn't want to do cat image because it would offend the dog people, and I'm a dog person, so I'm doing the dog image. So anyway, so now I have this joke, and then I create that. Just like we have GraphiQL, I'm going to go to the console here inside of my function, so I'm going to run it, make sure I get a payload, and I do. So this is the payload that I wanted. So I'm very happy with this. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to review and deploy. Nick's right. If you're working on this for a while, there's a way of.
It's in the settings. So if you scroll all the way down,
I think is it that, or is it in deploy?
I think it's in settings.
I think we're about to. Oh shoot!
You clicked on the wrong one.
This is terrible. Okay, so settings. I think it's in deploy.
All right, try it. Oh,
maybe
automatic deployment. So you might be right. So check configuration. You are right. You beat me.
It's only because it's driven me crazy so much that I've had to do this. So, before I lose my place, so I'm going to go to GraphiQL. I'm going to, now I set up the function. Now with this function, I can call from the front end of my application. I could call from other parts of it. So, but I'm going to create this custom resolver that this function is reusable anywhere you want to reuse it. But I happen to, now that I have that, I can create a custom resolver to return a value for a field. I can set it as query or mutation. I'm going to have it call my get dog and joke function. Mutation is where I do things to change my data inside, so I can set up functions to like insert things or delete things or enrich it in other ways. But I just want to get it for the simple example. I don't have an input type that I needed, but I do need a payload type. And I am going to paste dog and quote. Did I put in function? Oh yeah, that's why I need that. I need dog and quote. So the GraphQL field is dog and quote. It's going to show up in the payload if I do this. So that looks good. You have to check, make sure it's a JSON, it's an object, alternative type, save. Review and deploy. We're coming up on an hour. If you guys are still here, I'm really happy you're here.
Yeah, we've got people. People are chatty in the chat. No questions, but people are definitely chatty. You can always look back at them later. We're talking major crap about you. That's no.
Oh no.
I'm joking.
Yeah, this is why it's good that I don't have my second monitor up working. So I said I forgot what I was doing. I was at Explore. So I'm going to go back to my graphical interface. And then I'm going to get rid of this because it's really bugging me again. And then here you see that we already have the dog and quote show up in my thing. So I want to do, where was that? Oh no, I do have to write this. So now I'm going to do, let me take this out. Oh, let me take this out. Sadly, I'm sorry.
Is anyone able to hear weird noises coming from my end of the speaker? I know there's a lot of noise outside, and I don't know if it's coming through on my microphone at all. If not, don't worry about it. Regardless,
please disregard. So you see, we have this history thing, so I can't actually remember what it is that I wrote. But I can go into history and hit the last one, and it'll just fill that up. So this ends my accounts. This ends my customer. So after that, I'm going to do dog and quote. Let's see. And then here you go. Now I have, it's the same API endpoint, and I've just enriched the data with other collections and data from somewhere else. And so this is really powerful. So let me take this query and go back to the thing one more time. This is the last thing that I wanted to go over. So it's good that oh wait, that's not where I want to be. No, it is where I want to be. Don't mind me. I'm going to do this. That was right. Dog and quote. Ready. What was the thing? Oh, and let me put in my little query filter here. Query name. Nothing. Okay. Oops. Sorry. I can normally do this without doing the wrong thing all the time. So let's save this. Let's see if this works. Actually, you know what? Oops. My bad. Since it's a dog thing, I put in a dog image there. So let's see what I get. So let's refresh. Let me clear the screen. So now I have this little dog cartoon, and the dog cartoon says, I'm not going to zoom in for you, but it says, on the internet, nobody knows your dog. So, and let's go back to, I forgot about Gary Nichols, right? And there you go. So here I have Gary. I have his photo because I want to know who I'm working with. Saying, here's the quote, saying that Java is good because it works on all, oh, no. Sorry. Never mind. And then you get to see, I'm sorry. Then you get to see, I can't believe of all the jokes, that was a joke. I'm going to go, sorry.
I missed it. I was in the chat.
No.
You don't need to scroll up. We're all good.
No. I got to do it again. Why did I read it out loud? Okay. Okay, good. That one's readable. You can read it, Nick.
I just marked the time, so maybe I can edit this out before it hits YouTube later. You want me to read the quote?
Yes.
Some people, when confronted with a problem, think, I know, I'll use regular expressions. Now they have two problems.
And it goes on. And it was funny because when I'm writing this, I would stop and laugh, and I would tell my programming members of my family, my coding members of my family, what the jokes were. And it was really affecting the progress of my work. So anyway, so that is essentially, I took my data, I enriched it with data from another collection under the same schema, and then I enriched it with data elsewhere in the same schema. And actually, the final step, I have it hosted inside of Realm. So Realm can host all your static files. So these files I was just showing you, I have hosted here. And because I was tired of, so Nick, in my Be Like Nick, I took part of his GraphQL, but he actually wrote an autocomplete blog recently. I think it's up now. I think it's up this week or last week. So I actually took autocomplete from Atlas Search because I didn't want. Oh, I'm sorry. It's all a blur. But I didn't want to keep looking to see people's names. So I used autocomplete. I set up a search index with Atlas Search on this data just so I didn't have to constantly type in Jennifer, anybody's names. I could just do this. So I could put anybody there. And let's see if I have any Nicks in here. And you can see it kind of completes for the first name or the last name too. So
did you rip this off of my blog post?
No, actually, I can't believe I said that, and I didn't actually. So Nick did this blog post for autocomplete, and in it did it like so well, and I did an autocomplete thing for movies when we were announcing, and I used autocomplete, and I created an API endpoint, and mine was really complicated, and it required I have a whole function of. That I can, if you look at it funny, the function will break. I'm like, don't touch it. But Nick did something really nice and elegant. And so I was like, I'm going to do what he did for this. And I just didn't want to learn it again. I was like, I don't want to learn it again. I'm just going to cut and paste my old code. And then I look at my old code and I couldn't learn that either because I didn't make any comments. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, why can't I just comment every once in a while? So this is a learning experience for me. Yeah. So that's my application. And then hopefully I can give you guys, we'll finish up Brian Leonard's amazing blog post and we'll give you this thing and you can start working on it. And let us know if you have any questions about it. Are there any questions in the chat, by the way, Nick?
No, we received some feedback on Realm, and I've made some invitations to people who are using Realm with GraphQL to be on our podcast.
Ooh.
But no specific questions as of now. I think everything was very straightforward on this stream.
I don't know how I managed to finish things about 5 minutes every week. I'm like, I'll be done by Tuesday for Friday's stream, and this week I finished about an hour and a half ago. So anyway, so this is our thank you then. It was a lot of fun to do this application and do stuff with GraphQL. And now that I'm doing it, I mentioned that it reminded me of how easy it was to do stuff, how it would have been so much easier to do this stuff when we were at Twitch. And so I did this banking application, customers and their accounts. But imagine if you had an e-commerce store, for instance, where you have customers and they have a cart of items in their cart, and then that could link to the products collection, and then you can get all sorts of so when you don't have to go back and forth to get all this different data and async and wait everything. You just hit it, get all the data back at once, and just have a better performance and make it super duper easy for your developers to access your data, to work with your data, to understand the data that they have at the fingertips, and just get a little funky with it. It's a lot of fun.
We have some feedback for you from Edwar6CR in the chat. I like the example. Even the errors were useful. So that's good.
Well, thank you. They weren't really errors. They were definitely errors.
Yeah, they were definitely errors.
Okay. Well, yeah, let us know. Please tweet us. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions about it, I always learn a lot when people ask me questions that I don't know. I'm like, huh, I should do this. And like I said, it's not just making your data complex or enriching your data with other collections. I have another application where I surface things that I wrote a web application that integrates with Alexa, and I have different endpoints to return for every tiny little thing all the time. And now I'm like, God, I could just have one endpoint. It's just like life is just so much better. It's like, well done brownies. I mean, like the REST APIs are poorly done brownies. They're still edible. I'm still eating them. There's still chocolate and sugar, but GraphQL is pretty fun. So I'm looking forward to working with this more. And let us know your thoughts, guys. Thanks so much.
All right, Karen, do you have any other plugs that you want to give before we bring it to a close?
No. Sorry. I'm like, it's like it's 8 o'clock at night here in France, and I'm on vacation now. So.
All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Other than Nick's autocomplete blog. so other than Nick's content on our developer hub.
Yeah, I linked it in the chat.
Okay.
So this video, at some point in time, maybe next week, it will end up on YouTube. So if you came in late, visit our YouTube channel. We'll throw it up. You can catch up. You can see all of Karen's errors again. You can see that line with all of the non-breaking spaces again. Rubbing it in, giving her a hard time. But yeah, once again, thank you for coming out.